Hey there, I'm Ash DaCosta, CTO of Mainland Information Systems, and I would like to welcome you to the first of a three-part video series focusing on availability, disaster recovery, and data protection technologies offered by EMC. Before I dive in, let me set the stage. According to Gartner, the modern computing world is at the nexus of four forces: information, mobile, social, and cloud. Add the Internet of Things to the mix, and we now have the ingredients resulting in business and users now adopting what I call a service consumption behavior within organizations, which is forcing IT to deliver secure, resilient, and highly available services all the time and from anywhere. EMC has technologies that directly address this challenge. These are technologies that have matured to the point where they are now available to businesses of all types and sizes. No longer are the esoteric solutions relegated to the largest of enterprises. An example of this kind of solution is EMC's VPLEX technology. EMC VPLEX is storage virtualization technology that enables local data center and data center to data center availability by providing shared storage access between sites. And it was developed in Edmonton, Alberta, so go Canada. To better understand VPLEX, let me describe Mainland's tiers of availability and illustrate VPLEX's position in it. Mainland organizes availability in tiers of recovery capability. Tier 1 is for solutions that deliver a recovery objective within seconds to minutes. These are typically high availability technologies. Tier 2 is for solutions that deliver a recovery objective within minutes to hours. These are typically snapshot-based technologies. And Tier 3 solutions that deliver a recovery objective within hours to days, this is the realm of good old traditional backup recovery that we all know and love. Well, kinda. In this context, EMC VPLEX is a Tier 1 availability solution, high availability, where recoverability requirement is on the order of seconds to minutes. So let's get to the tech. Okay, so what we have here is the interface to VPLEX. And what you're seeing is a VPLEX metro configuration, which means that it's between metropolitan centers. In this particular configuration, what you have is Chicago in cluster 1 and Naperville as cluster 2. Cluster 1 is comprised of two VPLEX directors, two because they're in a HA configuration, which is replicating synchronously to the two directors that are located over in Naperville. So now you have basically a data center to data center configuration. So how VPLEX is set up is essentially in the following configuration. What you see here is an illustration of how VPLEX volumes are configured. You essentially have storage volumes, which in turn are carved up into extents. And then from extents, they are then combined into devices, which are then presented as a virtual volume. Now, if your VPLEX clusters are actually separated by distance, that is to say between two cities, then this virtual volume will actually span across that distance. So if you have hosts located at one data center and hosts at another data center accessing this same virtual volume, it's actually accessing it from two locations in a read-write fashion. So what I'll do now is I'm going to flip over to vCenter. And this is the vCenter configuration that is associated with this VPLEX cluster. What you have are two ESX hosts, and each ESX host is connected to a separate VPLEX cluster, but in turn is actually talking to the same distributed volume. So I'm going to select Maps, and this is going to show me what the configuration looks like. You have ESX02 here and ESX01 here, and you have a VPLEX volume that is being accessed by both hosts. The interesting part about this is that each host is at a different location, and this volume is spanning the two locations. Now, to show high availability and the value of VPLEX, what I'm going to do is I'm going to migrate a virtual workload from one host over to the other. And as a result, it's moving from one data center to the other. I'm going to select this particular client, this particular VM, and I'm going to start it up. So I'm going to power on this virtual machine, and you'll see it beginning to power on here. I'll click on the console to show that there should be some activity coming on here in a second or two. Okay, so you see Windows powering up on that particular virtual machine. While it's doing that, I'm going to migrate this workload from the existing host that it's on, which is ESX02, over to ESX01. So I'm going to select ESX01 as the host I'm going to migrate to. Click Next, select Standard Priority, Next, Finish. So while this Windows system is coming up, it's actually moving between data centers. As you can see, it's currently migrating down below here. And at first blush, one would think that, what's the big deal? You're just moving a running workload from one host to the other. Well, that is true, but the interesting part is that I'm also moving it from one data center to the other, which means that you can use just standard vMotion tools from VMware to actually move workloads from data center to data center and back again without using more complicated disaster recovery tools such as SRM and so forth. As you see, the migration is completed. I'm going to hit refresh on here, and you'll notice that this client is now running on ESX01 instead of ESX02, and in doing so is now running over in Chicago as opposed to Naperville seamlessly. And if you go to the client's console, you will see it's still running, so end users would not even notice that it's moved from one data center to the other. So that's an example of workload mobility using VPLEX with VMware. Stay tuned for part 2, EMC Recover Point. Feel free to drop me a line if you have any questions. Thanks for watching.